Well, hey guys, ever since I did the bullet feeder mods video, a lot of guys have been asking if they could get the files, and I said sooner or later I'll do something about that. So first off, I just want to thank AmmoMike for all the work he has done. I'm sure you all know that all his files have been taken off the airs. Seems that Double Alpha has got the patent, and I think they got the patent somewheres November, December, and as soon as they got the patent, they made Thingiverse pull his files, patent infringement. So once again, thanks to AmmoMike, this is all possible. There's still a lot of us that do have the files, and the way I'm looking at it, you're making it for yourself. So and the things I'm doing, these are only parts, so I'm not even touching patents here. They don't even exist in Double Alpha. So with that being said, what I've done here to make things work, when I was doing this, I made that machine for my buddy. I don't have a machine in the shop right here. And I was battling these guys right here. This is a 170 grain semi-wad cutter 45. My buddy was into bullseye shooting, so this was a bear to get to work good, because it has such a big shoulder on it versus, you can see a 200 has a very small shoulder on it, and that shoulder would always hang up on the drop end of it. So this is where my experience comes in with this. So this may help somebody, it may not help somebody, but I'm going to put the files on Thingiverse, but I just wanted to do a video here. So the first thing I did, this fits inside the can itself, the feeder. This portion right here, that would fit tight up to the bucket, and then you have the notch right here, and this would fit the cutout. And easiest thing to do with that, because that's what I did originally when I was messing around with it, just get some double-sided tape and stick it on the back side there, and then stick it down, and then you can fiddle around with it. And then once you're happy with it, I just drilled it and put real tiny flathead screws and nuts on the back side of the feeder itself. So that creates a trough around this bucket. And this is the flipper plate here, which I also made that because now it needed to be thicker, because this is like 2 millimeter thicker. So I did that, and I did this in a 1-piece, a lot easier than the 2-piece. The one guy, Alex, he's the guy that got me really going on this again, because it's been so long since I did this. He's been fighting 40 cal flat nose, and the closest I think, I have a 40 cal plate here that was left over. These knobs, I thought it was a good idea, but they just screw everything up with the bolts hitting them and stuff, so run it without a knob. But at least this is a 44 240 grain, but it does fit the hole. So this was just my trash pile. So the way that would work now, the can's out here, and then the bullet nose would be on the outside of this plate if it's face down. And I don't know if you can see, it would go right around like that. And as it comes around, let me see if I can do this for you. As it comes around, see, now I did a little bump out right here, and what that would do, and let me lower this down for you guys to see a little bit better here. So hold on just a second, and we'll zoom in so you can see what's going on here. And being this is black here, it's hard to see it, but the angle piece is right here. So as this bullet came around, it's guiding it that way, so it's holding that tip out, and then it would come out, catch that lip, and then go down into the hole. Now this isn't adjusted obviously because I just have it sitting here. So those were my two major deals there. The other thing I did, and I don't know if I can turn the camera, if it'll help any of that. Yeah, that black is really hard to see. Is I created, let me take this off. Okay, this is what I would call an anti-tip plate right here. And what that does is, because these things are so critical, you're right on the edge of dropping the bullet upside down. You know, when it's nose down, it'll just shoot right down. But you're right on that very edge of this. Yeah, it looks good. You can see it in the glare. You're right at the very edge with the bullet as it comes. But if it wants to tilt, it can fall in that hole the wrong way. So I made this little anti-tip thing. I have some earlier video I'll put in with the machine in action when I still had it. So that's how that works. So if I put this back together, and I made these a little tight, you have to file them a little bit, but you know, you have to make this plate because I made up the difference of the thickness of the plate. And then this is just a screw. When I made the parts on my 3D printer, I you know, put the hole there, and so you know, you can locate it. You just put whatever screw. I prefer a through screw, but then that's adjustable, and so I have to hang it over this way because the offset there. And what you want with this thing is, let me move this around. Now this is what let me go back a step, one more step here. This is what I consider a 9.5 millimeter plate. And what I mean by that is this is 9.5 millimeters right here. It stays 9.5 millimeter all the way around until it gets this tip and then forces it into the feeding plate itself. This may be too large. I made this for the 45. This may be a little bit too large for the 40. It may work. So, like I said, without a machine, I'm just kind of placing pieces over top each other. But what you end up seeing here, and I'll have to come down again, and what you see is you see a little bit of white. That's that plate right there. So that bullet right there is going to catch just on that piece here. It won't go beyond it. You don't want it to go down beyond that, because when it comes up to that other corner, it'll wedge into the machine. So you need to see some of this. Now I did include in my files, I think there's an 8 millimeter. So, you know, there's an 8, a 10, a 10.5. You can print them up, see which ones work for you. But that's the intention of this whole thing here. So you have to print the plate. Let me come up again. Okay, so we got the plate right here. This is what I call the flip plate. If you want to, you can put the anti-tip on there. That really helps, and you'll see it in the other videos I do. There's several plates. This and a couple others end up here, and one or two of them, and I can't remember which, they actually come all the way down to here, full, you know, radius, and then the trough starts. If you're familiar with your printer, you're going to have to set it up yourself for that. Let's see. When you find the files, it was early on when I was learning that 3D CAD, and everything's up like that. So in your slicer, you're gonna have to flip it down. If you're gonna flip it down, I would flip it down like that. That's the up position, and then put the bottom on the glass. And so that's that. And let's see, I also modified the flipper, and I'll come back to this. I just printed this. I didn't have one in stock. I sent them all the way to my friend when I made the machine, but there's two pieces here. So let me clean these up and I'll get back to you. Okay guys, I cleaned this up. I do run this with support, so there's supports under here, and there's a support under this arm here if you desire using this system. This one I made a little different. I put an angle here because what happened to me, and like I said, it's hard to do this without the machine, but as they were getting caught up like that, some of them weren't getting kicked out, so I put a wedge underneath so it would actually lift it out when it snapped in like that. Yeah, there goes that bullet. So that's that. So that would print in an upward position. Like I said, some of them are in the right orientation, some aren't. It was a real learning curve, that 3D CAD system I'm using, Fusion 360. So you have this arm on here. This would go directly behind where the internal spring goes, and I'm leading up how this whole thing works here. Is I didn't like the internal spring that actually hooked on this. I remixed this piece from AmmoMike, and I was gonna see if I could put it on his website, but it's no longer there. So so this system would go on like this. That would go there, that would go, it's not going to sit there for me. And then I would use, what would they call this? It's not a compression, but expanding type spring. This is a lot bigger than you need, but this is the type of spring you need. You go down to a hardware store, you find the right size you want. Then this would hook over this little loop here, like that. I made a little notch there so the spring would fit in. And then this one would do the same thing on this side, like that. Now you have a regular spring you can deal with, and then you can always cut a loop off, bend it out, and fine tune it that way. What I did to attach that, and you have to check what size you need, but this is just a 632 cap screw, which I made the hole the right size. Like I said, it was a learning curve, but I finally got things working. So that would go in like that. This would come out the bottom. This wouldn't be long enough, you can see, but so what I would do from there, then I would just take a nut, and that's why that's relieved like that, and screw that on like that, and leave it a little loose up and down so you have a little play. And then you would go through your main housing and then get another nut, and then you could tighten it up that way and sandwich it in, and then you have a good tight fit and you have play. So that's that part of it. The anti-tip, I know that's probably going to come up the wrong way when you pull the file up. You just have to flip it in the slicer. I always printed them with the angle like that. I always printed them, you know, down like that, so the angle's coming back up. You might want to put some supports in this slot here. I think I use bridging for that. I think I use like a 0.2 resolution on my prints. I usually print these kind of parts 100%. Actually, I found if you knock it down to like 99%, it'll give you a faster print time and you won't even know the difference. So these are the parts that I had success with. So you have the anti-tip. I redid this whole thing, and like I said, you might have to do a little file in here to get it to fit, and just use some of that double stick tape. That worked good for me for you know, figuring out how things are done. Like I said, there's several of these You have to see which size works best. For a 45, the 9.5 work good, and probably a 9mm and 8 would work good, because that way it wouldn't go inside this. So this plate might work for 40, so I would say, Alex, give it a try. If not, try the 8, and same deal. So these are all my mods. Oh, one other thing I was thinking about here: if you use different calibers and you make different plates, you know, you go in and you reset them. Usually what I would do is just make a plate for that caliber, and rather than fiddle farting with it all the time, is I would just put a little screw in the back like that, and then you would just slide it in and it would hit, you know. So you adjust this to where everything works good, and then you say, okay, this is my 40, and then you have another one, okay, that's 45, that's another one there for 38, or maybe a 9mm. But that's just a quick way to set it in and you know, have pre-adjustment on it. So that's about it, guys. Like I said, let's give a big thanks to AmmoMike, or else this wouldn't have been possible for any of us. So I'm going to get the file set up on Thingiverse, and I'll put a link in there also. Now, when I set my buddy's bullet feeder up, and I spent a lot of time messing around with everything, I found around 38 degrees tilt on the unit yielded the best results for me. So you got to weigh out the angle of tilt that you have, and also the speed. So if you have adjustable speed control on your unit, that's a factor too. So that's just another thing I thought of. Okay, guys, one other thing. At the end of this, I had some old footage from the machine that I made for my buddy, and I just took some clips from it and I slowed it down, and you can watch where this anti-flip mechanism kept the bullet from you know, entering the hole the wrong way. It kept it from flipping down and then eventually going base down. So like I said, this was all set up for my star press, and that's what my buddy had too, and that's what a lot of guys are using it for. So that's it. So till next time, guys, take care.